That weekend began like any Saturday. I slept a little later than usual, then leaned over to give my wife of 17 years a good morning kiss. Claire mumbled, "Ryan, let me sleep. You never give me any peace day or night, and the girls are probably awake already." I laughed. Fair enough. They're old enough to manage on their own. They won't bother us. I climbed out of bed, slipped on my robe, and headed toward the shower. As I passed Rachel's room, I heard noise inside. It sounded like Sophie was trying to pull her sister out of bed, so I let them handle it. Once I had showered and dressed, I went into the kitchen. Both girls were already at the table, clearly impatient. "Are we getting breakfast today?" Rachel asked. "We still have school." "Why would you?" I said. "You're on New Year's vacation. Remember, you're going to Grandma's." She frowned. "What about you? You're off too, and it's a long weekend. Wasn't this Mom's plan?" "Why don't you two cook something yourselves?" Sophie jumped in. "We would, but Mom won't let us. She says we'll destroy the pans and burn the food. Scrambled eggs are the only thing we can make." "How about oatmeal or semolina porridge like they eat in England?" Rachel grinned. "Oatmeal, please, sir." I smiled. "Oatmeal it is, miss. We'll save some oats for the horses. And if we make semolina, no lumps. Now wash your faces and brush your teeth. Breakfast will be ready in 15 minutes. I quickly made their food. Meanwhile, Claire came out of the bedroom and disappeared into the bathroom. The girls sat down to eat, and she returned soon after with her hair neatly brushed. She was wearing one of my shirts, and even with everything going on, she could still stop me in my tracks. Everyone defines beauty differently, but hers was undeniable. I loved her, though the tension between us had become just as obvious. Claire sat at the table and told the girls, "Finish eating and get ready. Daddy is taking you to Grandma's." Rachel objected. "Mom, you promised we'd spend a week at the ski center. Our gear is packed, and we've been excited to celebrate New Year's Eve together." "Girls, we can't always have what we want," Claire replied. "We'll visit the ski center during spring break, after the snow is gone. Or maybe we'll go to Palmer. The mountains there have snow all year. Now finish up and get dressed." I wasn't happy about leaving the girls with my mother-in-law, especially after Claire had lied about our trip. For a while I had felt her pulling away. It started around the same time Ethan became the new commercial director at her company. Claire had known him at university, yet never mentioned him. That bothered me, though I kept hoping she would remain faithful. I considered confronting Ethan, but knew it would only cause more trouble with Claire, so I watched her closely instead. As far as I knew, nothing serious had happened. There had only been light flirting. Still, Claire suddenly sending the girls to her parents made it clear that something was coming during the long New Year's weekend. I was prepared for the conversation. I had even brought a recorder to capture it. When the moment arrived, my emotions turned cold. Protecting my daughters was all that mattered. Thanks to a warning from Chloe, I already knew a difficult talk was coming. Claire had no idea that I had stepped into the bathroom, switched on the recorder, hidden it in my pocket, and returned to the kitchen. She stayed quiet for nearly a minute. Then she looked at me and offered a small smile that quickly vanished. "Ryan, we need to talk," she said seriously. Her voice made it clear I wasn't going to enjoy what came next. Trying to remain calm, I asked, "Is something wrong?" "Nothing is wrong," Claire said. "I love you, Ryan. I've loved you for years. You've been a wonderful husband and father. I want us to grow old together, maybe even die on the same day." "Then what's stopping us?" I asked. "I've thought about this a lot, and I believe we need to take a break from our marriage. We should spend some time following our own paths and having separate experiences. When we come back together, we'll have a broader view that could strengthen our marriage." "How long is this break supposed to last? A month? A year?" I asked. "No, only the 2-day holiday weekend," she replied. "So that's why the girls are going to your mother's instead of the ski resort?" "Yes, I already arranged it with Mom." I stared at her. "So you and your lover invented this whole sociological theory just to get my approval for a weekend affair?" I could barely believe I'd said it. Claire's proposal knocked me sideways. Her nerve shocked me, though after my suspicions it wasn't entirely unexpected. Still, her words felt like 1,000 needles. Ryan, I don't know what you mean. Could you explain? She asked, pretending to be confused. I have no idea who you think this lover is. You may hate the idea, but nothing between us will change. When we're together again, I'll make you happy. I know it's selfish, but I have my reasons. I want to grow old with you. You may not understand now, but one day you will, and you'll thank me. My patience was nearly gone. You really don't know who I mean? I asked. Ethan, your new commercial director. You had a serious affair with him in college. He dumped you after he got tired of you, and you quickly moved on to me. You never once told me he had become your boss, and if you think nothing will change, you're wrong. What exactly do you mean? She asked, still acting innocent. Things have already changed. The way you treat me and the girls is different now, I said, raising my voice. Ryan, I love you. You're imagining all of this. I still love you, she insisted. I don't know how you'll explain our divorce to your parents or to Rachel and Sophie. What do you think they'll say? Divorce? Claire stared at me. We're not getting divorced. I can see through the sociological garbage you and Ethan came up with, I said, forcing myself to stay calm. You're making this more complicated than it is. Take the girls and we'll work everything out when you return. We're not working anything out. I'm leaving, I said firmly. You can't do this to me, she protested, her voice trembling. Yes, I can. I hadn't planned to divorce you, but I've made that decision now. But I told you I was calling it off, she argued. Yes, and then you said we'd discuss it again after I came back. So enjoy your free weekend while I drive the girls around. You can spend the time consulting Ethan, I snapped. Rachel walked into the kitchen and cut off our argument. Daddy, we're ready. I'll be ready in 5 minutes. I quickly finished dressing, grabbed my laptop, and slung my backpack over my shoulder. Without saying another word to Claire, I went downstairs and started the car. Once the engine had warmed up, the girls climbed in. As we pulled onto the main road, I saw Claire watching from the window with a stunned expression. Nobody spoke for a while. Finally, Rachel broke the silence. Daddy, Grandma lives in the other direction. I know, sweetheart. But you were promised a trip to the ski lodge, so that's where we're going. We'll find somewhere to stay. Dad, are you and Mom getting divorced? Rachel asked, her voice shaking. Why would you ask that? I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We heard you arguing in the kitchen. We're on your side, aren't we, Sophie? I'm on Dad's side too, Sophie said. But where are we going to live? We'll stay at my mother's house for now. I'll take you to school so you can collect your books and clothes. But for the moment, let's stop worrying and enjoy this vacation. You both deserve it. I tried to sound reassuring, even though I had no idea what came next. I later learned that after watching us leave, Claire pulled out her phone and called Ethan. He answered immediately. Ethan, it's Claire. We have a problem. Don't worry, I'm alone. Has your husband left yet? He's leaving tonight. He just went to the store. He's probably on his way. What happened? Ethan asked. He didn't react as we expected. He didn't believe me, Claire replied. Who are you talking about? My husband. I suggested the 2-day separation we discussed. Did he agree? He knows about our past and our relationship at university. Now he's talking about divorce, she said anxiously. That's bad. It could cause a huge scandal. The office gossip will spread it and Chloe will hear, Ethan said, worried. I have no intention of divorcing my wife. You never did you? So what am I supposed to do? Has your husband returned yet? No, he still has to take the girls to my parents, then come back. I'm sure he'll come home. He isn't really leaving, Claire said. Tell him the temporary separation is canceled, Ethan advised. I already did. He didn't believe me. He thinks I'll try to persuade him again when he returns. When should he be back? In 3 or 4 hours. Then that's the plan. Tell him you've changed your mind. Let his anger cool down and keep this from reaching the office. It would make everything harder, Ethan concluded. Claire ended the call feeling calmer with Ethan's support. After thinking it over, she set the table but decided not to cook. She got dressed, went to a cafe, and ordered takeout. On the way home, she bought wine, placed a corkscrew beside it, and set out 2 glasses. Then she warmed the appetizers. She turned on the television and settled into an armchair. For the first time, she wondered whether a brief affair with an old flame was worth risking her family. Winning her husband back would be difficult, especially since she had no idea how much he knew about Ethan. Telling Ryan that her former classmate was now her boss had probably been a mistake, though he would have learned eventually. Ethan had vanished from her life years ago, then suddenly returned. When she learned he would become the commercial director, the old attraction came rushing back. To her, it was only a fling. Their first private conversation had made his intentions clear. "Claire, I've always liked you," Ethan had told her, "but I can't risk destroying my family. I'm not ready to stop seeing you, but everything must stay secret. As far as I know, you're married too." Now, life was showing her how foolish that choice had been. Their private talks had sounded almost scientific, but they had overlooked something important. 4 hours passed and Ryan still hadn't returned. He should have been home by then. Claire called her mother. After a short delay, she answered. "Hi, sweetheart. How are you? It gets dark early in winter. Grandpa and I are sitting here having another little disagreement." "What are you arguing about?" Claire asked. "The usual. He wanted a drink and I said no, but he found the bottle I hid." "What about you? When are you bringing the girls over?" From that answer, Claire realized I had never arrived. She then called my parents. My father, a retired military officer, answered. "Claire, what's going on? You're looking for Ryan and the girls, aren't you? He warned us you might call." "No, I was just checking how you were doing," she said. "Don't try to fool me. Ryan called and said you two are getting divorced," Dad replied bluntly. "That's ridiculous. We had a misunderstanding, but nobody gets divorced over this," Claire protested. "This isn't only between you two. It involves some man from your job," my father said. "Ryan told me that at breakfast you suggested a 2-day separation. When he refused, you said you were canceling it but planned to discuss it later. Is that true?" "No. Ryan said he'd had enough and decided to divorce you. He's gone to handle things and he won't be coming back. He assumed you were still at home waiting for him," Dad explained. "That isn't true. Ryan knows about the man you're involved with. I suggested he drive back and settle things face to face, but he said, 'Dad, I'm not interested. I have my daughters and they're on my side.'" "Where did he go?" "He didn't say. We were so shaken that we never asked." "If he calls, tell him he misunderstood. I was trying to do what was best for our family, but now I see I made a mistake. My wife and I have been together for decades, and even in our worst times, separation never crossed our minds. Who filled your head with this nonsense? If you love someone else, why make everyone suffer? If you want a lover, leave your husband and children. Don't destroy your life and theirs. Ryan will recover, and he may be better off. He's neither old nor unattractive, and the girls will be safe with him." "There won't be a divorce," Claire said, her voice cracking. "That's what you believe. I know my son, and apparently you don't." "I only need to explain everything. Once he understands, he'll see that he was wrong." "He'll call. I'll pass along your message," my father said before ending the conversation. Claire then called Ethan, but a woman answered. "Hello? Excuse me, may I speak with Ethan?" "Who is this?" "My name is Claire. We work together." "Oh, I know who you are. I threw him out, so stop calling. He doesn't even have his phone anymore." "Did something happen?" Claire asked, confused. "You really don't know? I've moved to 2 cities because of that cheating womanizer. I'm not giving up this new house, too." "Where is Ethan?" Claire asked shakily. "How would I know? I kicked him out. Maybe he's at your place." "He doesn't know where I live. Why would he go there?" "He knows everything, including your address. You work together, and you weren't the only woman involved. While I was away, he planned to meet all of you. Meanwhile, I was driving my daughters to a ski resort outside the city. I knew several people there, including Daniel, an old classmate who had become the director. I called him, explained what had happened, and asked whether we could stay through the winter holiday. Ryan, anything for you. Finding a cabin for 3 is easy. Great. I have 3 cabins available under the company allocation. I'll hold one for you. Perfect, but I need a favor. If anyone calls, don't confirm that my daughters and I are there. No problem. When will you arrive? We're about 90 minutes away. The roads are icy, so I can't drive fast. All right, I'll have food waiting in your cabin. At the gate, tell them you're visiting Daniel, and they'll show you where to go. 90 minutes later, we reached the resort entrance. I told the guard we were there to see Daniel, and he directed us to the right area. I parked under a covered shelter near the lodge, and we carried our bags inside. Daniel was waiting at the table. Come on, the food is getting cold, he said when he saw us. You're always rushing. Give my girls time to wash up and look around, I replied. Rachel and Sophie carried their things upstairs. They had changed into tracksuits and seemed happy with the room. Watching them, I realized how quickly they were growing up. Where's Claire? Why didn't she come? Daniel asked. That's a long story. I'll explain later. For now, let's drink to seeing each other again. Always rushing, yet somehow always slow, Daniel joked. We raised our glasses and began reminiscing, occasionally stopping to answer my daughter's questions. After a while, Sophie asked what other activities the resort offered. There's a dance party in the main hall right now. We didn't bring anything suitable for dancing, Sophie said. There's no dress code. You can go as you are, Daniel replied. So we don't need special clothes? Can we go too? Rachel asked. Of course, I'll have one of my employees escort you. A few minutes later, a young staff member arrived and led Rachel and Sophie to the hall. Once they were gone, Daniel turned to me. Why did you decide to divorce Claire? What happened? Remember when Claire and I were dating? People said she might be seeing another guy. Yeah, I remember the rumors, but nobody had proof. Well, that same man came back from out of town and became the commercial director at Claire's company. They started an emotional affair, though I didn't notice it at first. His wife, Chloe, found out, decided to divorce him, and warned me. Then everything came to a head today. Did Claire sleep with him? No, but they decided that we should spend the long weekend apart, supposedly so our marriage would become stronger as we grew older. I've never trusted sociologists. To me, sociology is for people who don't understand society, so they study it and invent rules they later try to force on everyone else. You're right about that, Daniel said. So what did you decide? While talking to Claire, I realized I couldn't stand continuing our life together. I'm divorcing her, I said, feeling as if a huge weight had finally left my shoulders. What happens next? Daniel asked. I need to work that out. A group of lawyers is coming tomorrow. Their office is downtown, and I'll ask them for advice. Good. Now pour us another drink. Rachel and Sophie returned from the dance around 11 that night. A resort employee had looked after them and escorted them safely back to the cabin. I made the girls a late supper and we ate together before they went upstairs. Once I was alone, I sat on my bed, fighting back tears. It had been a brutal day, and I couldn't stop thinking about what Claire had done. I played the recorder and listened to our conversation again. Hearing her words confirmed that, under the circumstances, divorce was the right choice. Back home, Claire was still waiting and had no idea where I had taken our daughters. I had remembered my promise to bring them to the ski lodge, so that was exactly what I did. Claire, meanwhile, must have suspected as much. She turned on the computer I usually used and searched through it, but found nothing. There was no trace of the ski resorts I had researched. The next morning, knocking woke me. Come in, I called. My daughters burst into the room, excited and full of energy. Daddy, wake up. Let's eat breakfast and go skiing. After that, we can skate. They have an ice rink here. I know. Where are we having breakfast? At the cafe. Go wash up. I'll be ready in 5 minutes. We ate at the cafe, changed into our ski clothes, rented equipment, and rode the lift up the mountain. We stayed on the slopes until lunchtime. That afternoon, we returned to the cafe and changed. There, we ran into Daniel and his wife. He told me the legal team he had mentioned had arrived, including a divorce attorney. "Meet me in my office after lunch," Daniel said. "I have a computer, a printer, and everything else you'll need. Tonight, my wife, her sister, and I can take your girls to the ice rink, assuming you're okay with it. We'll meet at my place afterward. The girls want to dance again, so we can join them before heading back to the cabin. And remember, tomorrow is New Year's Eve. We have a celebration to prepare for." The plan was settled. After lunch, Daniel and I went to his office. A lawyer soon joined us, and I explained the entire situation. Her name was Grace. She walked me through the current legal process, which I knew little about, and warned me not to make any quick decisions about the apartment. "Remember, your daughters will grow up and eventually have families of their own. They'll need space. If the apartment remains shared, a future husband could complicate everything," she explained. "But I can't imagine living under the same roof as Claire," I admitted. "Try to picture it temporarily. First, consider proposing a legal division of the apartment. Then tell your wife you intend to file for divorce," Grace suggested. "When can the paperwork be ready?" I asked. "There's no need to rush. The courts are closed for the holiday weekend, too. I brought my laptop, so I'll draft everything, and we can print it later. You can also contact me at my office or hire me to represent you in court," Grace offered. "I prefer the last option," I said. We celebrated New Year's Eve with Daniel, his wife, her sister, and several lawyers in the resort's large hall. Other guests joined us, and the night was full of music, laughter, and dancing. Early the next morning, I walked my exhausted daughters back to our cabin and put them to bed. Then I returned to the others. Once the celebration in the main hall ended, everyone gathered at my cabin. We sat around the fireplace for a while before heading back to our separate cabins. The next few days went as planned. We skied, went ice skating, and danced in the evenings. One night, Daniel asked, "How are you holding up?" "Honestly, despite all the fun during the day, I cried a lot at night. But now I feel more ready than ever for whatever comes next," I replied. Eventually, it was time to pack and drive home. Before leaving, I spoke with my daughters and explained why we couldn't risk losing the apartment. We stopped at a mall for groceries and reached home after dark. Rachel and Sophie immediately began rearranging their rooms. Sophie carried her belongings into Rachel's room. Claire walked in and stared at them suspiciously. "What are you doing?" "We're making Sophie's room, Dad's room, and we'll share this one," Sophie explained. "That's what Dad told us to do," Rachel added. Claire clearly hated the idea, but the girls finished moving their things and prepared for school. I started making dinner and getting breakfast ready for the morning. Claire entered the kitchen and tried to talk. "I won't allow any of your boyfriends into this apartment," I told her. "Meet them anywhere else you want, and so, I'm filing for divorce." She went into the girls' room and asked whether they wanted to speak with her. They told her they hadn't missed her. "Dad told us to stay out of his way for the rest of the week," Rachel said. Claire looked hurt, but I didn't change my mind. From then on, Rachel, Sophie, and I lived separately from her. We locked the doors to the rooms we used. I cooked only for myself and my daughters and acted as though Claire wasn't there. On Friday evening, a young woman delivered a registered letter to Claire. It contained a court summons and a copy of the divorce claim. After reading it, Claire rushed into the kitchen with tears running down her face. "Ryan, why are you divorcing me? I thought we could fix this," she pleaded. "Talk to a lawyer and discuss it with them," I replied coldly. She brought up Ethan's disappearance, hoping it would change my mind. "Then contact him and ask for advice," I said. "I have nobody," Claire cried. The girls had already eaten and gone to their room without saying a word to her. Claire kept begging, insisting that she loved me and our daughters, but my decision was final. I knew exactly what I had to do, and there was no turning back. "What does your love have to do with any of this?" I snapped, struggling to control my anger. "I did love you, but that was before I learned about your affair with Ethan, your former boyfriend, the man you never once mentioned to me. After that, continuing to love you felt foolish." You wanted to talk? Fine, let's talk. Tell me about your wonderful weekend. What exactly had you planned? How are you going to spend it? It's been a while since I heard one of those brilliant sociological theories you and your friend invented, so explain it to me. How was your weekend? Did you enjoy yourself? I'm glad your buddy vanished again. Go ahead, tell me everything. I finished eating and began clearing the table. When Rachel heard the dishes, she came into the kitchen and offered to help. No, sweetheart. Go upstairs and clean your room. I'll wash everything and iron your clothes. They're already dry. Claire realized I had no interest in continuing the conversation. Feeling ignored, she returned to her room in tears. After washing the dishes, I switched off the lights and went to my own room. I noticed a stack of clothes that still needed ironing. Before bed, I went into the kitchen and found Claire sitting alone in the dark. When she saw me, she started talking. Ryan, none of this was planned. It just happened. Ethan and I dated at university, then one day he vanished. Nobody forced me into anything. Very few people knew we were together, and almost no one knew he suddenly left me. When he appeared at my company, we began speaking because of work. One day he invited me to lunch. At first, that was all it was. Then things changed. He said we couldn't meet in any way that might look suspicious. Everything had to be arranged carefully so our spouses wouldn't find out. I agreed, even though I thought it would be a meaningless fling. That temporary separation was supposed to give us our first and only real date. So you invented that whole story just to excuse what you planned to do? I didn't expect it to go this far. I simply agreed to Ethan's idea. Can't you see he was using you? Are you really that naive? It wasn't only that. You haven't complimented my appearance, my clothes, or my hair in a long time. Don't blame me for this. Maybe I didn't tell you every day how beautiful you looked, but that doesn't justify an affair. Are you saying any man who compliments you can convince you to cheat? Over the next several days, I prepared for a meeting with child welfare officials. Grace told me their opinion would matter greatly in court, though the girl's wishes would also be considered. I had too much to handle in very little time. At night, sleep barely came. My mind kept circling around love, trust, and betrayal. What Claire had done left me angry and deeply hurt. I wanted a divorce more than anything, even though getting one still seemed difficult. I no longer trusted her, and I knew our marriage couldn't be repaired. I also had to think about Rachel and Sophie, who had pulled away from their mother. During one conversation, Claire insisted that we should remain married for the children and try to rebuild our relationship. I answered firmly. Our daughters need to know that both parents love them without conditions. None of this is their fault. They're old enough to form their own opinions, and I have never spoken badly about you to them. They judge the situation based on what they heard when you proposed spending the long weekend apart. I'm proud of them, I continued. They understood quickly that something was happening between you and Ethan. They talked it over and made up their own minds. When we left, they were furious with you. Speaking with them changed not only my plans for the weekend, but the direction of my life. The girls understand far more than you think. Do they hate me? Claire asked. For someone with a sociology degree, you understand people surprisingly poorly, I said. They know their mother was unfaithful and they're angry about it. You can try to repair your bond with them, but they're entering adolescence. They're moving from childhood toward adulthood while going through major physical and emotional changes. I can't predict whether you'll be able to reach them. The weeks before court were filled with pleading, arguments, and repeated attempts to change my mind. Eventually, Claire and I faced each other at a preliminary hearing. The court gave us time to try to reconcile. When that required period ended, I asked Claire to sign a custody agreement as part of the divorce. It stated that Rachel and Sophie would live with me. She refused immediately. I'm not signing anything, she said. Then I'll take the custody issue to court, I warned. The judge will hear my side, speak to the girls, and decide. I doubt the result will favor you. You don't know that, she replied sharply. Court decisions can be appealed. Good luck with that, I said, nearly out of patience. Ryan, I know I made a horrible mistake. I finally understand how wrong I was. Please believe that I love you and I'll never see Ethan again, she begged. So now you'll just replace him with somebody else? I asked coldly. That's your decision, not mine, so don't blame me. You're the sociologist. Now excuse me because I have plenty to do. If you choose to sign the agreement, do it before a notary so it carries legal weight. As the court-ordered reconciliation period ended, Claire desperately tried to repair things with our daughters, but they wanted no part of it. After school, Rachel and Sophie attended computer classes, then came home with me. They had a quick snack and did homework in my room while I cooked dinner and prepared breakfast for the next morning. One day, child welfare officials came to our apartment. They interviewed the girls, inspected their room, and prepared a report. We arrived at the hearing on time with grace. Claire came alone without an attorney. Still, she had spoken with counselors and divorced friends and clearly understood that our marriage couldn't be saved. During the hearing, she answered the judge's questions briefly, usually with a simple yes or no. Near the end, Claire announced that she was giving her share of the apartment to our daughters and presented a deed of gift. The judge noted that Claire had already removed most of her belongings and promised to collect the rest within a week. She then requested a recess so she could sign the child support agreement I had proposed. When court resumed, she said, "I'm willing to pay Ryan child support voluntarily because I understand the ruling may not favor me." I suggested the defendant should open a separate account for each daughter and deposit the payments there. They'll need the money when they reach adulthood. The judge explained that alimony and division of the apartment were not included in the original claim, so the court wouldn't rule on them. The divorce and child support agreement would be handled as separate matters. The court recessed to consider its decision. Eventually, Claire and I left the courthouse officially divorced. After speaking with the judge, the girls had been excused from the courtroom. We found them near the bus stop, eating ice cream in the cold. "Girls, what are you doing? It's freezing out here," I said. "We brought the ice cream from home and figured winter was the perfect time to eat it. It can even soothe a sore throat," they explained. I smiled. "Why did you choose 19 as the age when you can access the money?" I asked. "That's what we agreed on," they replied. Claire kept her promise and moved out of the apartment. She went to live with her parents so she could care for her sick mother. I allowed her to visit Rachel and Sophie once a week, though neither girl was enthusiastic about it. During those visits, Claire spent time with them in our home. I remained single for quite a while. Years later, I spent New Year's Eve at the ski resort with my grown daughters. We were often joined by Maya, Daniel's wife's sister. Maya and I slowly began forming a relationship, but I wasn't ready to rush into anything. My daughters remained my main priority, and I continued guiding and caring for them. Maya had no children of her own, but she developed a good bond with Rachel and Sophie, despite some jealousy from them at first. I always treated Claire respectfully. I allowed her to see the girls and kept communication open, but we were no longer husband and wife, or even friends. Rachel and Sophie grew into mature young women without causing serious problems. I gave them all the love and support I could, and over time, Maya's presence brought our family even closer. Claire went through a terrible year when her parents died one after the other. I helped arrange both funerals, but sharing that grief did nothing to restore our relationship. She continued living alone, and her daughters became most of her social life. Eventually, she began seeing a lonely widower who lived nearby. As for Ethan, he never returned to town. Nobody knew where he had gone, not even his ex-wife Chloe, who remarried soon after their divorce.